Hi, Dr. Ahmad.
Hi, Naomi. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Thank you for coming on. I'm still waiting. I think you're the one. I think there's a couple more, but I don't know if they're going to come online.
Yeah, it's easy to sign up for things and then decide not to go.
Yes,
you know,
I agree, especially on a Saturday.
Yeah.
Are you back from your trip?
No. This is this place in Placerville where I stay sometimes.
Okay.
My house in Midtown does not have antique clocks and woodwork like this. It's super modern. But yeah, this is a big old wooden house up in the hills. It's
do you go there to write or?
Yeah. It's my third time here. Just somebody I know owns the place and has let me and my writer friends stay here for real cheap sometimes if we take care of the place. And yeah, it's wonderful.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to wait for a little bit.
Okay.
As we get going. That's not my picture. That's Narrative RX. I work with this very eloquent writer, poet, and we met in Colombia, and she started this way of teaching narrative medicine to kind of the community. And so here we are, teaching this together as we've done. She's an excellent writer and poet as well. And it's really fun working with her.
That's great. Yeah, that's a well-known program.
Yes, the Columbia one.
Yeah, the Columbia Narrative Medicine program. I'm aware of it. Yeah.
Yes, you're aware of it? Tell me.
I am. I think I've had some friends who've taught there, actually.
Really? Who?
Well, this was a few years ago, but a friend of mine called Janessa Abrams worked there for a while. I don't think she does now. She's in California now, but yeah. And I'm trying. I feel like somebody else I know was associated with that program, but I can't remember who now. Anyway, it's well regarded and seems like a really wonderful thing to offer to people in medicine.
Yes. I teach it with UCSF, and I teach it to residents, mainly teaching the art of narrative medicine, really. In terms of how we can build empathy, the skills, the modalities of healing, of basically narrative medicine does to help build relationships and understand people in context. And so I think it helps because, medicine has become so digitized, I should say.
Yes.
And it's less of an art of talking and listening. It's more of just doing and getting things done, and very fast paced and driven by, and technology itself has added that layer of disconnect, even though it's much more disconnected now. I can tell you that for sure.
Because of the pandemic?
More so, the pandemic made it worse for sure. But before that too, I feel, that's my personal opinion about how medicine is heading, and systemized medicine and trying to make it very efficient has made it much more. There's somebody's coming on. Yeah, I don't know who Galaxy A325G is.
Their computer.
Welcome, Galaxy A325G. It's connecting to audio. How was your retreat?
It's great. It's I've been here less than a week, almost a week. Tomorrow I'll have been here for a week, but it's been very restful and also somewhat productive. So but mostly restful.
Yeah.
So, which is good. I need that.
I was taking some time this weekend actually to write, and I have an article to write, and I try to blog as well, but I haven't had much time doing that. The person is still trying to connect to audio.
Yeah, I can see that.
And here's another person.
Oh, I wonder if the same person is trying to connect with their phone instead of with their laptop.
Yeah.
I actually came in through a link that somebody at Shamine sent me rather than the original link that I got through Meetup.
Oh, okay.
When I got to that, it said buy for $15 or something like that. And I
Yes.
was like, hang on, I think I have a link.
Okay.
So-
Yeah, we offer it to our clients as well.
Oh, okay.
But you do have to purchase through Narrative RX. But she's, we offer a sliding scale and
Oh, okay.
as well, and she's very generous about that. So I'm glad you were able to attend. It's more about being here than.
Yeah, Mom. I'm coming, Mom.
Okay.
That's not one of your kids.
Evening. I'd like to see the screen. If you guys, whoever's coming online, would open up your video. It'd be great to see your face. I'm Dr. Ahmad at. Oh, there you are. Okay. Good to see you.
All right. Dealing with Mom's ambient situation right now.
Yes. Yes. Thank you for coming online. This is really nice.
Yeah.
I'm going to wait a few more minutes for our next speaker, next person. So everybody's, I think, familiar with Zoom. I'm sure you are very well familiar with Zoom. And I don't know who Galaxy A352 is, but if you're able to hear me, we can do a sound check or to see that you can join in. Love to know who you are. I'm a thing. Let's see what the chat is saying. I'm Art.
Maybe.
I don't know. Let's see how, if you're able to open your video.
Sometimes people are shy about doing that, I guess.
Yeah. This is, so get in a comfortable place. I think I'll start with a few more minutes and then I'll admit a few people as they come online. This is an hour and some minutes workshop. Usually it's an hour. It takes about an hour and a half, but we can go with the flow and see how it goes. I'm again Dr. Ahmad. Alya is my first name. I do these talks mainly to somebody's they're trying to get onto video. Great, we'll wait for you. Don't worry. We do these talks. I started doing these talks in narrative medicine some time ago, and again, it has different purposes. In the work that we're doing with Shawn Minds, it's really a forum for collective thought and creativity, a place to share healing journeys as we have clients come through. But also, it's open to the community in people in healing and in any type of medicine. So, with much ado, I'd love to hear from each person. But before we start, I usually like to just have everybody just talk about who they are and why they're here and what they are eager to share. And again, this is a shared space. It's a safe space. We talk about very personal and we maintain that confidentiality in this space as well. So as we talk to each other and engage in learning and healing. So who would like to go first? Naomi or Fazia?
I can go. I'll just say, my name's Naomi. I live in Sacramento, although I'm not calling in from there right now. I'm a writer and a Shawn Minds client, and I'm just interested in this because it has to do with art and healing. I haven't really connected the two in the past so much. I'm an artist. I've also needed to do some healing,
Yeah.
two have not necessarily been connected. So so anyway, just here with an open mind.
Yeah.
So, Fazia, it's interesting because I'm using writing to sort of help me think about, process things. Not a writer, like don't have any training in it. But it's, it's kind of cool that when you just, when I just sometimes just start writing and I just feel like, it helps me just kind of cleanse or purge is one way, some thoughts and just some thoughts and things that kind of get trapped, kind of the expression of it in my private space. That's what I really like about it, is it's so private. It's just what I'm writing and I don't have to share it with anyone. It's just like, a journal of sorts, I guess. So that's it.
I think I'll speak to Galaxy. Do you want to speak about why you're here? We can just listen in if you want to unmute yourself. Oh, there you are. Yay.
Hello.
I don't want to call you Galaxy, but
Hi. I'll change that. My name is Vashti Thomas Wachterman. I'm in Colorado. I'm a transformation coach and I do economic development in this rural community that I'm living in. And we have a clinic here that needs to be revitalized. So I'm just here to learn as much as I can. Thank you so much. And I'm sorry about
no problem.
getting on a little late.
Yeah. If they wanted to rename yourself on the, so everybody we'll be talking among ourselves. And so if you want to put your name in, that would be great as well. So we usually start this workshop really on an idea. Our idea this workshop is focused on listening, and like I said, one of the things that we talk about in medicine is the art of listening. But before we start in the chat, or even as we speak, we're a small group, so as we speak, listening and observing and just being very attentive to what you see and what you really see. So I'd like to just, everybody just in a circle group here, describe the scene outside your window. And just spending a few minutes just to look and imagine, even if you don't have a window or you were outside, if you just imagine what is outside or what you see. You can start. So who wants to either put it in the chat? I'm surrounded by trees right now. I'm particularly intrigued by spring and the colors and the flowers and the blossom, and it suddenly seems to just emerge as soon as the weather starts to become brighter and lighter. There's colors, there's shades of colors, is just a life force that emerges from the ground.
So I'll go. I look outside and the shrubs of the bushes glistening with the green, with the broken haze of the sun trying to creep in.
Beautiful.
There's a full moon tonight, they say. It's a new moon, a powerful moon. I'm looking for it, but I can't see it outside. And I look to the little red tints of new growth happening from those green shrubs. And I'm distracted. Where's my Ambien?
Oh, that's beautiful. Wow. Vashti.
I've been looking out a lot lately in a 360-degree view. Every single mountain has a little bit of snow on it, and we rejoice here to snow right now, which means more water. So every time I'm outside, I am just rejoicing in this atmosphere. Maybe that's Pisces season too, but
Oh, rejoice. Beautiful. Naomi, did you? Yeah.
Yeah, I put in the chat that I'm surrounded by trees, which is true.
Uh-huh.
I'm staying in this place that's in the foothills of the Sierra, and it's mostly ponderosa pine here, really tall trees. And I can sort of see a house in the distance. So this is different from where I usually live, which is in Midtown Sacramento, and it's very densely populated. Well, not that dense. I mean, it's not like New York City dense or even San Francisco dense, but you know, much more densely populated than it is here. And Dr. Mudd knows this. It actually rained a little bit today, which felt like a real gift. And yeah, here in California, we're also like obsessed with rainfall, and it's been a really bad winter in terms of rain. So today it did not, you know, it did not rain enough, right, according to the meteorologists and the water people. But surely every little bit counts. And it is wonderful to look outside and just see green, and it's kind of dewy. Yeah, and I'm facing east, so unless there's too much cloud cover, if the moon comes up at some point, it should come up that way. So I don't know where the moon is in the sky right now, but yeah, it's wonderful to hear where what everybody is looking at outside.
Yeah. So without much ado, I'm going to talk a little bit about narrative medicine and what this workshop is going to focus on. We're going to talk on a poem written by a Ukrainian poet. And I bring this up because in narrative medicine, the art of healing, the way of connecting through creative ways of connecting, really through understanding people's context of who they are, illness, in terms of, and using literature, arts, poetry, and the visual to bring that to light, to an understanding, to a deeper understanding. And one of the things that we teach in narrative medicine is the art of listening, and what is attentive, what is radical listening. But the other part of that is the narrative ethics, is the focus on that narrative can be inherently political, it can point to an ethical stance, and listening to other voices is a practice of ethics as well. And it actually predisposes us to a mindset. And that mindset can be anything. It can be a mindset with humility. It can be a mindset to nonviolence, and it can be a mindset to openness. It gives us also an idea or an opportunity that listening and thinking is a reflection. So I'd like to really, really hone in on the ethic of listening in this workshop, and knowing that when we talk about narrative medicine in the context of ethics and a political forum, that it can be also just by listening and being present, can be a form of empowerment, as well as understanding the voice of resistance, and the voice that emerges can be a kind of alchemy. So let's practice this together today. I'm going to share my screen, but in the screen, I'm also going to share, I'm going to put in the link in the chat. I'm going to put in the link that I want you to put into your web browser, because it's hard to, so you can actually have the poem that we're going to do, and then it will be listening to the poet reciting their poem. So let me share my screen first. And go. So I'd like a volunteer. You can see my screen, correct? And in the chat you have, is it too small to read? I'd like a volunteer to read about the author. Again, the author is Julia Kolinsky-Dasbach. She's a Ukrainian poet. And here, let me admit one more person. So who would like to volunteer on reading this, the bio of the poet?
I'll read.
Okay. So welcome to Sneem Khan.
Hello.
Hello. We're actually, who's going to read the bio? We're just talking about introducing the poet, and
I was going to read it. Yeah.
Okay.
Putin's February 22nd speech rewrites history, questioning Ukrainian sovereignty and making false claims, legitimizing its always having been part of Russia. While this colonial narrative is not new, hearing it spoken in my mother tongue, Russian, while being myself born in Dnipro, Ukraine, and then reading and thinking through it in English, has carried a particular sting and anxiety in the days that followed. I coped by taking on an erasure of all 11 pages of his drivel in order to give back some of the agency and voice I felt were taken from my birthplace and its people in Putin's twisted version of history and present moment. But today, thousands of miles away, safe behind a screen, as my birthplace is invaded, I have no words for the pain and paralysis I feel. I'm holding on, my kin, on this soil close and wishing those friends abroad on a Ukrainian Chernobyl safety. War has begun and I'm terrified for what tomorrow will bring. I immigrated from Ukraine as a Jewish refugee when I was 6 years old in 1993, 2 years after Ukraine declared her independence from the Soviet Union in a referendum supported by 93% of Ukrainian citizens. While going through various political regimes, Ukraine has known sovereignty since 1991. I'm aching at the threat of this loss, aching for my birthplace, her language and culture, her identity, for her people, my people, for the mothers who first sent their kids to school wearing stickers identifying their blood type in the event of a military catastrophe and are now sheltering from missile strikes in basements and subway stations. I'm aching for what I cannot change, So the process of poetic erasure of a dictator's language lets me reclaim some sense of power for both myself and my reader, if only for a moment, if only for the lyric space of the page to reach for a mirror something. The word for peace in both Russian and Ukrainian, even though now this reaching this hope has been completely shattered.
Thank you, Fazia, for reading that. And mir is the word for peace in both Russian and Ukrainian. So as we move forward, I'm going to, Tasneem, I have in the chat, I have the link to the poem, and we're gonna listen, and I'll scroll through as we listen to the poet recite her poem. And in the chat, if you want, just as you listen, really just if you want to write some words or phrases that you noticed, and you can put that in the chat box as you listen.
An erasure of address by the President of the Russian Federation, February 21st, 2022, 22:35, the Kremlin, Moscow. Mir in Ukraine is country, and after a few words, history entirely created by Russia, severing what is historical. Nobody asked for war, longed for distance, found shine. Let me repeat, it's people, not a mistake. Admit them openly and honestly. Ukraine fully. Ukraine call. Ukraine go back to history. Repeat. It was impossible. Any future. Instead, bodies wonder why remain despite injustice. Ukraine, declare Ukraine, repeat Ukraine, reach Ukraine, gold rope, never. Ukraine open, Ukraine bind this dictator, striking Ukraine. Ukraine, I would mend memory, generations, Ukraine, branches, rivers, wave, burned, but we know Ukraine split is water, air, Black Sea, fracture is lack and lost in tatters. Ukraine, its root carries on. Listen carefully, please.
So I'm listening. I'm now reading sharp and dissonance, repeat, reach, severing what is historical.
What I think is really interesting is, it's about the placement of the words on the page and the vacancy in between the words and the placement. Like, it's interesting how this poem is written. And the, what's not there, right?
Mm-hmm.
What isn't, what's in between those words. So it's more about, for me, experiencing the visual of how the words have been placed and the lack of words.
So let's go to what you said, listening, and what was it like in your experience, or anybody who wants to answer, what was the experience of listening like to you as you listen and observe, but listening?
There's so much kind of undisguised passion in her voice. I listen to read poetry a lot, actually. There are podcasts and things you can listen to. Every day you can get a poem read by a poet in your email inbox. And so I have a lot of these. And usually people keep their voices kind of neutral, right, when they read their own poetry. But she really didn't do that. And I'm assigning a she pronoun to her because I don't know what to do otherwise. But yeah, I mean, her anger and her grief and all that are really obvious in this erasure poem. It's quite striking.
What else strikes you about how she read the poem? Or how you heard the poem?
It was almost hypnotic to me, the way her tone was, and how it was spaced out. It was almost like it could be considered like Tetris, putting things back into place that needed to be put back into place. I don't know.
Tetris and hypnotic. I like that. Can you say anything about the texture of her voice and the pace?
I loved it. I felt like it was at the right frequency that it needed to be at to get those words across. Maybe I'm pretty sensitive to tones, and so I just really liked it a lot. I wasn't sensitive to it at all.
Anybody else want to share about listening and what you hear when you listen?
It was like a little jarring because it's not jarring, stirring, like a plea. Like that's what it felt like.
Mm-hmm.
And it just was, felt a little dissonant, compared to usually listening to different kinds of poems. It just just didn't feel like normally how you read and listen to poems. It was very purposefully provocative.
And when we open this conversation in listening as a practice of ethics in narrative medicine, and opening ourselves up to that voice, and this is obviously a very political tone, but how does it resonate with you when you actually listen? How does it resonate with you when you listen to, what she describes obviously is a very painful, very sense of loss, and a sense of, how does that resonate?
If I could just say something, because this is something that resonated for me a little bit. She, I guess her bio said that she had left Ukraine as a child, I believe. Yeah. So there's a kind of double loss of her country here, right? Once when she left, and now seeing it invaded and destroyed by another, the army of another country. So that double loss was kind of there for me the whole time. Also, the bio said that she left as a Jewish refugee, which suggests that even after independence from the Soviet Union, Jews in Ukraine did not actually feel comfortable enough to stay there. So it's a loss that felt compulsory in a way, right? Like they had to leave in order to survive. And then this is, but there's still that love for the old country that didn't welcome you, even though it was your country, right? There's just multiple layers of loss here in her bio and then in the language. And I'm really interested in erasure poetry as like acts of resistance. And this is a kind of amazing example of, contemporary resistance in action on the page. And then to hear her read it was, really heart-wrenching.
Yeah, Naomi, you bring a good point about erasure. An erasure of an address by President of the Russian Federation. This is a speech made by Putin, and parts of it being erased and put together. And, I had to really think about the word erasure as a word that basically, erasing, but where sometimes when you erase, you can actually erase in a spot, and even that leaves its own marks. But erasure can be also a place of, sorry, where am I? Hold on, the screen is left. Let me stop sharing the screen. But erasure can also be a place of a political erasure, a whitewashing, of a group or a cultural group, or even events, an exclusion of people, and putting this together on the page. What did it feel like as you watched the words on the page in this spaced, as Fawzia describes, just the spacing and how the words are even placed? What did it feel like?
It was to me, now that you're saying that, it was, almost like, when you think about things that have been blotched out or erased, they're fragmented in the process of erasing. So, when you look at the poem visually, as it's written, it's like, could there have been other words that preceded or succeeded the word that you can see, and were those erased? So, that's, it's there's a line, and then there are words, and then there's vacancy, and then there are words, and then some lines have more words than others. So it's like this random erasure. And it makes me think about the band erasure.
Yeah.
Like I never really thought about that band's name. And now that I think about it, the lead singer of the band was queer at a time when it, wasn't appropriate, or so I now, like, I'm just saying the name erasure and like thinking about this band and like going, oh wow, that name for their identity as queer in a time when it wasn't good to be queer, like, was that how they came up with the name erasure? It just made me think about that.
That's a great point. When we're talking about, when you're looking at the words and the spacing, the gaps, the fragmentation, as you said, as well as the exclusion of words, and be it random or contrived. Thank you. When you look at and I'm going to scroll as we, however we can see, just looking at the words on the page. What do you notice?
There's doesn't seem to be any logic to it. It just feels kind of like, if you looked at it from a design perspective, it just feels like it's random erasure here and there of words. But at the same time, the empowering part of it is that the words that haven't been erased carry so much power. So it's the plea that she's making carries power, despite the fact that, visually it looks like there's been words erased. So it's an empowering poem in the plea that she's making in its own victim status. Like it's not speaking from a place of victimhood of, it's pleading for people to kind of come to action.
What else do you notice on the page? The plea, the calling.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking, I thought of two things while Fazia was talking. One is that there's a way in which the apparent fragmentation of the words and the lines kind of mirrors the fragmentation of the country that she's talking about, right? So there's a visual way in which the way that this poem appears on the page actually reflects the political reality that she's screaming about, right? But also because she was limited, right? Because of the constraints of this kind of poem, she was limited to the actual words in the English language translation of Putin's address and the way and the order in which those pages appeared in that original translated document. There are places where she's had to stretch in order to create the meanings that she needs to make. Like there's the place where you have the word mend and it goes M-E-N from one word. And then it skips over and she found a D in a different word and she's erased everything in between. Do you see? There it is, right there. You just scroll past. I would mend memory, right? She couldn't find the word mend in that document, but she created it. And that's what seems really empowering to me, because I agree that it's a very empowering poem, but where does that empowerment like in here, right? It's in moves like that where she wrests the meaning out of this document that had utterly pernicious intentions, right? And also where we see rivers, right? She wanted the word rivers in there, and she carved that out of 3 words in the original document. And I mean, visually, that that again, you got that fragmentation thing, and then the creation of the meaning and the call that she's making. So I'm better at listening to things visually than I am at listening to things auditorily. So I'm very struck and moved by what's on the page here.
Exactly. I mean, when we think about E.E. Cummings and the work that he does in terms of, just using words in pictorially, I'm curious even to the imagery that it creates. And just even if as you look at it, I'm happy to hear from the group as well. What else comes to mind when you look at this in terms of imagery and a metaphor of the page, of the words on the page?
I'm not really sure what to say. I'm just, as I'm looking at this, just thinking about, go ahead.
Fragmentation.
Fragmentation. My first impression, if I may add, was like bombs dropping. The spacing, the randomness of that just gave me that visual. Especially
The irrationality.
I mean, there's a clustering, there's a spacing. It's open. It follows that curves.
But I think it's more, you can't, there's no logic to it. There's no logic to the way the words have been placed. So it's illogical, it's irrational. It's, you can't predict it. You can't predict what's going to happen on the next line.
Right.
I think the sheer repetition of the word Ukraine over and over and over again is itself like mildly assaultive to the ears and to the eyes, you know, and kind of puts me in mind of how like easy it is to get overwhelmed by news of this sort, right? Like when I open my browser in the morning, it automatically opens to the Guardian homepage, and it's just like Ukraine, Ukraine, every day worse news, right? And this poem kind of both like acknowledges that and itself kind of performs that sort of visual assault while talking about an assault on a sovereign country.
Yeah, I want to say she repeats Ukraine, Ukraine, Ukraine. I think over 15 times. I want to say I didn't actually count, but I knew about that much. And it resonates, you know, Ukraine, 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 you know, as it builds in pace, when she recites, especially in the latter part. But you're right, you know, even just the word Ukraine can be numbing, you know, just hearing it, but stark and numbing and stark, you know, stark, hitting us, and yet we're still numbed by the word because of its repetition. Thank you.
But then when she says at the end, right, especially when she read it, listen carefully, please, it's impossible to remain numb, right, to that numbing thing. So it's just remarkable the way it affects that on the reader and the listener.
What do you think this poem is asking for when you talk about the end? But what else do you think it's asking for?
Awareness, just
You said
know,
a place
using
Mm-hmm.
yeah, using language to awaken us, to strive towards a cause, to, you know, I don't want to say a call to action because I always find that so trite. Call to action, but it's kind of, you know, yeah.
And Vashti says, heart-wrenching, reminds me of legal documents that have been doctored. Tell me more about that, Vashti.
Yeah, you know, when someone said the thing about the bombs dropping, I was getting really circular visions in there too, but I was thinking, yeah, like legal document that you should take very seriously, almost, you know, that trying to hide things, you know, erasure. It's beautiful.
Yeah, the doctoring of legal documents, the erasure almost of it, and just with the blank spacing. That's profound. Thank you. And witness, Naomi. What do you witness?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that she's asking us to bear witness to what is happening. Sometimes it feels like there's not anything else we can do, but even bearing witness is an act of something, empathy,
Yes.
if not direct intervention, right? And when enough people bear witness, sometimes things change.
Right. So this is big. That's big in the ethics of narrative, is the listening, just even being a witness as a form of empathy, truly. And the art of healing, it has a lot to do with that, in terms of just being very present and attuned, and as you said, just bearing witness to a painful disclosure. And that itself is a form of empathy and compassion. Thank you, Naomi. I'm curious what you mean, Vashti, about to stop repeating. You said that in the chat.
Oh, I was saying, I think that's what she's asking for, you know, for us to stop repeating this cycle.
Yeah.
To get out of the cycle that we're in.
I lost my screen here. Go back to it.
I mean, it's kind of interesting because this displacement, or, you know, I mean, if you think about like Palestine or Yemen, or, you know, I'm curious, like, why, I mean, Ukraine is a recent example, but it's been happening forever, right? I mean, if you look at this country, United States of America, like the displacement that happened there. So I feel like while we're focusing on Ukraine and that, but it's about a bigger issue or a bigger theme in terms of boundaries and invasion of those boundaries. And why were there boundaries to begin with?
Yeah. Yeah, it brings up a lot of questions of why, you know, why this should even happen to anyone. I think you said, Naomi, severing what is historical. It is a severing of lives, of people, of culture, of the, you know, and that's her plea to be able to, I guess. What do you think? And when we started this again in the focus of listening, and when, as listeners, as in healing, part of that listening, I mean, one of the works of healing and being a healer and a shared space is the penetration of that effect on within you and the impact it can have. And opening ourselves up to be able to understand that voice and hear that voice can have impact. What do you think?
What sort of impact?
That's what I'm asking. What impact? How does it penetrate? Does it, what does the, what does it do to the listener?
A lot of different things, right? Depending on the piece of art in question, the context in which it's being consumed, right?
Right.
But but I sure hope it has an impact since I'm an artist. One likes to think one's art matters. I mean, there's everything from a piece like this, which is bearing witness to something and asking other people to do the same, to share that sort of burden. And then there's art that's, purely for entertainment value, whatever that means. I think there's such a thing as bad or even harmful art, but I think that something you indulge in for entertainment value because it takes your mind off things, that's valuable too.
Yeah.
So
the last part of this workshop now is about writing, and I hope everybody has a pen and paper or something. It'll be 5 minutes of just writing. I'll give you a prompt. And again, this is, you're welcome to write or even talk about the prompt, but preferably just write. I'll actually set a timer for 5 minutes. And then after we write, we'll be sharing our writing. Again, it's an open space. If you feel like you want to share, fine. If you don't feel like that, that's okay as well. Our intent is that writing something is totally fine. When we speak of our writing, we don't want to qualify the writing. Just don't tell us what you meant or what you could have done better. It's always already perfect as it's read. And when you respond to the writing, listeners, just focusing on the speaker's words and grounding your observation and the details of what is being told. So if someone tells a traumatic story, something might come up. Instead of saying, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry this happened to you," you might just want to mention the words or the images that made you feel, or how you made you feel, to ask certain questions. Let me kind of come back on. Vashti, we're going to our writing prompt, and in a minute or so, I'll post, or I'll actually just say the writing prompt. I don't have a slide for that, but I'll tell you the writing prompt, and then we'll be writing for 5 minutes, and then sharing our writing if you feel comfortable with that. And again, when we share, we don't want to qualify our writing. We just write and recite the words on the page as they are. So this name needs to drop off, so it's to be just us three. So I'll put it in the chat, the prompt. What are you listening to today? And I'll start the timer now, and you'll have 5 minutes. 30 seconds. Oh. Okay. Sorry, Vashti, I just got to your question. So if you're ready, we can share. And I also wrote. So whoever wants to go first, if you feel comfortable sharing, we'd be honored. And it's a privilege.
I can go first if Vashti is still writing. Okay, what are you listening to today? I am listening to the quiet on the roof. That means it has stopped raining. I am listening to my son tell me on Zoom about his life in a faraway city, and to my heart that has never stopped grieving his departure. I am listening to the wood stove, to the creaking of its iron sides as it expands with the fire, to the strength and the malleability of a metal that can both contain and withstand and dispense so much heat. The sound of my friend typing her own words, then feeding the fire, the literal one in the stove, the poetic one in her heart. The voices on a call, gathered to listen and maybe heal, to the word heal, which is both transitive and intransitive, as in I heal and I heal you.
It's amazing what 5 minutes can do.
It is amazing. That's the most writing I've done today on my writing retreat. So thank you.
Oh. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. That is, thank you. Vashti, do you want to share? She's got a rural internet, so may not be able to, but Vashti, are you able to hear us and share? She keeps freezing. Well, I'll share mine. Can you hear us, Vashti? Okay. So I'll read mine. What are you listening to today? Listening to myself. Who am I? Who am I want to be? What entails in this discourse of self? Why does it be? What does it want to be? Who, how, where, what, why, when? Speak to yourself. Listen more. What resonates with you? Where does it settle? How does it be? Do you accept that disturbance in you? Speak to you. Listen more. Feel it within. Open yourself to critique. Let your body be, holding it tight so it doesn't hurt, doesn't make it go away. Can you be more? Are you okay? Even as you are, why the question? Listen carefully, please. And I just wrote it in the kind of the theme of the poem. I was inspired by just the movement of words on the page.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I really heard that line, open yourself to critique.
Open yourself to critique and let it be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Vashti, are you able to share? It keeps freezing. I feel bad for her.
I wonder if she could
won't
turn.
let me be there right now. I'm very sorry I'm not connecting for a bit, Vashti.
Okay.
So she'll be offline.
Yeah.
Wow, what
Yeah.
an exercise.
This was great. Thank you.
Thank you. And just the exercise of listening, I think, opens ourselves up to, I don't know, another space, another space to ourselves and to each other. So thank you for being here, Naomi.
Thank you so much for being here. This is great.
Thank you. We'll do it again. Take
Great.
care.
Yeah, I'll come again. Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.